It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the New Orleans Saints / Pelicans videographer Brendan Hassett. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Yeah, so I grew up a huge sports fan, and I just always kind of knew I wanted to be within that industry. It's kind of what, definitely I had a passion for as I grew up. And I didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to get into, but I went to a bigger university, so it takes to put on like that production and kind of realizing like what went into, sports to make them run. There's so many different aspects, but I always kind of liked the visual aspect, and that's kind of what always made me want to pursue that field. I didn't know exactly what, but that was I'll probably touch on that in later questions. Exactly how I got into what I'm doing now.
What was your time like working with ESPN as a runner for the ESPN GameDay, College GameDay?
Yeah, so perfect. I wasn't trying to steal your question, but I got the chance to work for ESPN College GameDay at WVU, and my roommate, I believe it was his uncle, would hire runners for when they were in town. So any big game that we had, football or basketball wise, he'd reach out to us to be kind of, basically interns to go and do some busy work and stuff. But we did get to do some roles like during the games where we were, performing as light technicians or, helping like assisting with video and, audio needs, basically just running, equipment essentially. But that was my first exposure to kind of being like, oh, this is pretty cool. And, it's funny, a little bit coming full circle is like the big game that we got to do that really like wowed me was LSU in 2007, I believe, came to West Virginia and played, and they were like the top team in the country. Tyrann Mathieu was on the team, and I got to work with Aaron Andrews, who was working the game. So that was kind of interesting. That was cool because I was like, wow, this woman, excuse me, who works for ESPN that I've seen on TV. I'm working with her now as like this college intern, and so that was pretty fun. But yeah, that was definitely my first exposure to kind of the industry itself.
What was it like for you to work on the biggest stage of sports media as ESPN?
Oh, I mean, so with that vision of kind of wanting to work in sports, I didn't know if it was definitively going to be with a sports team, but I also was very open to sports networks. So kind of my first ambition was to work for ESPN. I originally from New England, and they're based out of Bristol, Connecticut, so it seemed appealing if I wanted to be near home. Work in Connecticut and work for the big sports program that is ESPN, and so that was very special to have that opportunity when I was in college to work for such a big company like that, and kind of get my first exposure within that industry. It was awesome.
What was it like for you to get the job with the Saints and the Pelicans as a digital media videographer?
So, are you asking exactly how I got the job?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2014, I'm kind of taking a little bit back, but I moved to New Orleans, and I basically at that point moved here with no job, but just knew I wanted to do something in sports, and I got connected through a guy through my old news director, where I got to do some freelance work, and I met him, and just kind of went from there, networking for like a year and a half, where I finally met. Well, I did some work with one of the guys who ran production for the Pelicans. So I covered some events for him, and then they had an opening, and he reached out. He's like, hey, we got an opening. I know you expressed wanting to, work for the teams. He's like, here's your chance to interview. I was like, that's awesome. That's great. My work's kind of paying off. I spent this year and a half. Like, here's the opportunity. So I interview, and I actually didn't get the job. So a little deflated. And I was like, damn, that was my chance. Like, what could I have done better? to kind of, position myself to get it. But it worked out where honestly, I think it was maybe within a month later, they reached out and said they had an opening for basically it was an intern videographer position for the digital media team. And it was an interim position where you could just work for the duration of the seasons, and then they'd see if they wanted to hire you. But they reached out to me. They're like, "We'd like you to interview for this job now." After I didn't get the other one, and fortunately, I got that chance. They gave me the job, and I worked the interim position, and that's how I got my opportunity. Just get your foot in the door. And then fortunately, after the season was ended, they chose to keep me on full time, and then the rest is history a little bit. So.
Did you ever know that you wanted to work for two big sports professional companies?
So I never could have imagined that this would have happened. Honestly, I think people, anyone would be blessed to work for one, right. So to work for two is an absolute blessing. It's been amazing. And, it has its challenges at times, being able to, juggle working both teams, but I wouldn't trade that for anything. It's very special to have the honor and privilege to, represent two major sports franchises and, especially in a market like New Orleans, it's been awesome.
What are some of the challenges you have faced juggling both working for the Pelicans and for the Saints?
Struggles, I'd say, it's mainly time management. You really, especially when the seasons overlap, you're juggling a full season of the Saints schedule with a full season of Pelicans. And, they do organize it where, you won't have any game days on the same day, but you might have a Pelicans game on a Saturday, and then a Saints game on a Sunday, and then a Pelicans game on a Monday, and then another Pelicans game on a Wednesday. So you're talking 4 games in 5 days, So that's probably the biggest struggle for me is, it's just that commitment that it takes to be able to work for two teams. You definitely have to make yourself available. And that's probably, the one thing I'd say is, the biggest struggle.
You balance work life with both the Pelicans and the Saints, and then your personal life outside of sport?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate enough, work with so many great people that, a lot of, friends and, people that I hang out with are, through the team and whatnot. So, and it makes sense too, because, our free time usually lines up. So as much as we spend time together at work, we do spend some time, separate from that. But, one thing, excuse me, that's nice. And this is just fun because like, it's when we're on the road, but when you're traveling for work and things like that, it kind of mixes things up a little bit. So you are away from home, but I think there's something to be said for like, when you're on a week-long road trip, it makes you really appreciate being home and like, kind of spending that time with people, when you can and organizing it. So, yeah, you're working a lot, but the time you do have with people tends to be a little bit more special because, there is only so much of it,
Of course, with working with both teams, do you have to be on the road a lot whenever, like, let's say the Saints might have a home away game on Sunday, and then the Pelicans might have a home game? How do you balance that?
Yeah, so we'll fortunately, I have a team that I work with, so we'll kind of divvy up some of the road trips. My boss Lane, he handles the bulk of traveling for Saints season. I have had the opportunity to work. Let's see, I think I'm up to 4 or 5 Saints games now. By the way, I'm undefeated in all of them. They've won every game when I've been on the road. Just throwing it out there. But my boss does the bulk of the traveling for that, and then my coworker Ashley and I split up the Pelicans. We have another coworker Isaiah, but he's been hired since COVID started, so he hasn't had the chance to travel. But yeah, well, it's interesting because like the NBA and NFL, I believe they kind of do work together, and it's kind of you have to work with the city of New Orleans as well because we have so many festivals and things like that going on too, where you have to organize the schedule around stuff like that. So it is funny. My coworkers and I will sometimes be like, all right, who's going to get the Mardi Gras road trip this year? Because it tends to be like a 2-week long trip because, they don't want to be dealing with trying to execute Pelicans home games while there's Mardi Gras going on and there's streets shut down and everything, So that's kind of how it gets split up. But I mean, it's not even just game days and in season, I've traveled for owners meetings. I've traveled for, the NBA draft, the NFL draft. There's probably more. But yeah, we travel for all sorts of different things.
Typical game day like for the Saints and the Pelicans?
So a typical game day for us. So basically, what I help with on game days is I help execute our pregame show that airs on NewOrleansSaints.com. And for Pelicans, I'll execute our pregame coverage with our coach. It's Coach Van Gundy, right? And then during the game, shoot highlights from either, the field or in the crowd. Depends on, sometimes we'll do features for Saints games, same with Pels. And then, Pels, you're on the baseline shooting. Usually we're gathering slow motion content where we can feed that to social to post on, during the game. We'll feed that during halftime. Or sometimes, if we have a runner, we'll be able to get it out a little bit sooner. And then after the game, help run our live coverage of the post game for our post game show for the Saints. And we just have regular media coverage for Pelicans.
What is it like to oversee the social media side of both the Pelicans and the Saints?
So just for full transparency, like I'm part of the social media team, or our digital media team. But I don't post anything specifically myself. That's just not my job. So I basically will feed the content to them post and put any funny captions or anything like that. So I don't want to take the credit for anything that they're doing because it's all fantastic work. They do a great job. But yeah, no, it's definitely fun to know that your content's being shared on such a large platform with such a great fan base.
Can you talk about, of course, the process of getting media coverage for games you cover?
Okay. Yeah, no. So I'll work with our PR team and basically, coordinate with them, who's talking and when. I do a large bulk of our media coverage. So basically, yeah, reach out to PR, or they'll send out an email every day, kind of letting you know who will be talking. If it's Pelicans, it's kind of more unpredictable. It's like you just show up to media availability and then, you put in a request usually because there's such a higher frequency of times that you get the players, they talk almost every single day. And then, yeah, with Saints, their coverage will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if they have a game on Sunday. But basically think they have, any days they're practicing, they'll have media coverage, and then they'll have coverage on a game day as well.
What was it like for you working with the Saints and working while Drew Brees was there and seeing Drew Brees play?
Oh, God, yeah, I'm so blessed. I mean, to see the level of excellence that he played with, and kind of the level of respect that he was shown in this office is incredible. He's just an awesome human being, and just so many fond memories of games he played in. It's really special. That and he goes down as one of the all-time great quarterbacks. If not the greatest. I think he is. It's just awesome. The bits of history I was able to witness, and sharing, those are memories I'll have the rest of my life, so it's been an honor. And, we wouldn't, the Saints, it's funny, since I got hired, I got to learn the history and just, seeing the success that they've had, even in the time I've been here. I've worked 6 seasons, and the last 4, they've won the division. And before that, no team had ever won back-to-back division titles, so, in our division. And it's just crazy to think about the amount of success they've had in the short time I've been here compared to their full history, which is 50 plus years, so and a lot of that had to do with Drew, so just absolutely incredible. It's very, very cool experience.
While covering the Pelicans games, what is it like to watch players like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williams play?
It's incredible. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, damn, it would have been fun to have been born a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, because the things these guys do are just incredible. I mean, the athleticism they're able to display, it's just, it's jaw dropping at times, and it's cool that, I'm able to capture it, on camera, it's a lot of fun, just, I love shooting slow-mo highlights of these guys, and you slow it down, and, definitely helps, creativity. And yeah, they just, yeah, it's been, it's cool. It's cool to see their skill level. They put a lot of hard work into it.
Of course, have you got any requests from any of the players while you're doing videos of like, send me those videos of me doing a dunk or scoring a touchdown?
Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely times where we'll get requests. Usually it's through our PR department. They'll kind of be like, hey, that guy, got the, this play during the game. Can you send him the photo? Can you send him the clip? He wants to post it on his social channels, or something like that. Yeah.
What is it like to have the work relationship with the players on a professional level?
Yeah, that's something that's always been a point of emphasis since I started. Just kind of understanding that, it is supposed to be a professional relationship and not, a friendship. You're not trying to be friends with these guys, it's supposed to be professional, and, that helps, I think productivity and, getting the work done, and, kind of focusing on that, that's always kind of been my mentality is, let's get it done and move on to the next thing, so I'm not there to kind of chit chat and, be all buddy buddy, but, you're respectful, and, they respect your time, you respect yours. And, I think that's the goal.
What is something that you learn now that you didn't know before becoming a sports videographer?
That's a good question. I guess the biggest thing that I guess I didn't really comprehend once I started working for the teams was just all the different departments that it takes to make a business like this happen. There's I'm in digital media, but it's also under the, the marketing umbrella and the production umbrella and the PR umbrella, and then there's accounting, and then, there's operations, and then, there's youth programs, and there's HR, and, there's ticketing, and, I mean, it's just, goes on and on. And it's kind of crazy to see, us as such a, big company. I don't know if whenever, I graduated or, was growing up, imagined, what it would be like working for such a big company. But, then you're in it and you're like, oh, wow, like it really takes a lot of people to make it go. And we could use more people, so it's kind of funny. There could be easily more. But yeah, that's probably been the one thing that I guess I didn't quite comprehend when, I first started working with the Saints and Pelicans.
What are some of your future plans while you work with the Saints and Pelicans as a sports videographer?
So one thing that we're doing right now is just got some new equipment. So I believe we ordered a set of 3 Sony A7Rs. Looking forward to using those and getting those out during training camp. And yeah, no, I'm trying to think. The bigger project that we're trying to work towards, just because we have big aspirations, is we're trying to get start a production studio or set up more that we have. So we have a production office and things like that, but just trying to create that next level where we can put on some little high-end content, and even like, full-on shows I think is the goal. So that'll be fun. That is a bigger project and down the line, but yeah, in the short term, we'll take the cameras, but down the line, hopefully get our production studio.
For my listeners interested in becoming a professional sports videographer on the professional level, do you have to provide your own camera, or does the team like the Saints and Pelicans provide it for you?
Oh yeah, no, all the equipment, or I shouldn't say all, but the goal is to use most of the equipment that's provided through the team. There have been times where I've had to use a personal camera. It's not my favorite thing to do, just because, if anything happens to it, I'm responsible. So, you kind of take that risk if you use your own equipment for, the work here. But yeah, no, besides that, we get a bunch of different toys to play with. We have Sony FS5, few Sony FS5, Sony FS7. We're getting all these Sony. We have a couple of Sony A7s. We're gonna get these A7Rs, and yeah, it's fun just getting to play with all the different toys and attachments. I think we got some gimbals that are coming in too. That's one thing we've really needed. I've just wanted to expand my ability to like use a steady cam and whatnot more when I'm out on shoots. So yeah, but the goal is to use the team stuff.
What is it like to have a front row seat on the football field of the Saints and the basketball court of the Pelicans, covering both games?
It's amazing. I It's funny. I think at the beginning of the season, it always hits me for Saints and it didn't happen last year, which was a shame, but we didn't have fans in the stadium. But the energy of the dome when the team's running out and everything, and the sound on like third down, they're yelling. And I've worked some games where I'm on the field and it's a late game situation and they're screaming and you can't hear anything. It's incredible. It's infectious, and it's just it's really special, the Superdome. Definitely a competitive edge, and the fans are the reason. So and then the Pelicans, we're working on trying to get more of a passionate fan base that matches the Saints, but there are a lot of fans that have season tickets and do show up at night in, night out. And I will say, the game that stands out to me that I think really is the potential for our, fan base and what should be our expectation was Zion's debut. I'll never forget that. That was incredible. I actually was fortunate enough to kind of experience that game a little bit as a fan. I was capturing some content in the first half, and then, I had somebody kind of like alleviate me for the second half. So the second half, I went and met up with somebody who I got some tickets to the game. And that was when he went off in that third quarter. So it's kind of funny. Like I was working, but that time when he was hitting all those 3-pointers, I was in the stands, watching it with a friend of mine. Yeah, it was crazy. That was so cool. Like just seeing, and I was jumping up and down. I was like, oh shoot, I shouldn't be going crazy, but it couldn't help it. But that's just the energy that our fan base is capable of. So I would advise anybody if they have the opportunity to get inside the Superdome or the Smoothie King Center, absolutely take advantage of that opportunity.
As you shared that moment, how hard is it to be a fan, but then know on the professional level that, oh shoot, I shouldn't be cheering, so loudly for like players like Zion Williams or
Well, I don't know what. Yeah, it's so funny you asked that. Because when I'm working, I just get into a zone where I don't even think that way. There's certain times where I have the ability to do that. So just for an example, if I'm on the road and I'm shooting the game, filming the game and getting highlights, but then I have to leave at a certain point. If it's close at the end of the fourth quarter, I'll hang till the end of the game. But if it's, there's a little time left, or, I depends on the arena. Sometimes the location of the media availability might be far, so I have to leave no matter what. But in those instances, I set up for my post game media availability, and then they'll have a TV like right by, where we do the interviews, and I'll be like cheering then, like in the moment, like, oh yeah, wait until the end, like, are we gonna pull this out? But in the moment, yeah, you're just kind of like talking to yourself, maybe. At least that's what I do. I don't know, I don't go crazy or anything, but it is hard. It is kind of funny. I think some people are a little more passionate, or maybe they get a little more emotionally invested. I guess when I'm working, I can kind of compartmentalize that.
what is it like to go from being like shooting or videoing a game to like, oh, I now have to like go send this off to my boss so they can put it on social media? What is that timeline like?
Well, I mean, when it's game day, we're trying to get stuff out as fast as possible. So, you know, just for example, pregame, I will do the pregame show, but in years past, I actually was in charge of shooting our pregame huddle. So Drew Brees will huddle together the players and like do a pump up speech with them and everything. Like it's crazy. I was doing that for like 4 or 5 years or 4 seasons, I think. And yeah, that's something where it's like get that out as fast as possible, because like once the game starts, it's going to get missed in all the rest of the content. So If the Saints have a big game where they scored 30-something points, there's a bunch of big plays happening, no one's going to see that. So it's only really relevant in a certain time frame. So you are another example is the who dat chant that they do with the players. They go down and then the whole stadium will chant who dat. That's another piece of content that we'll get out as fast as possible. But on game days it's definitely get it to our social media team and keep getting content from there.
When it comes to being on the field and on the court, do you have assigned seats where like you have to stand?
For when I'm working, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
So yeah, there's certain lines on the field that dictate where you can stand, but I can go really anywhere I want outside those lines. For the football game, like you don't go behind the bench area, but you're basically from like the 30-yard line to the other 30-yard line in a U, around the end zone. So that's where I'll be for during the game for football. And then basketball, we do have a reserved spot on the court for one of our videographers to shoot on the baseline. It's right near our bench. It's like 2 or 3 spots from our bench.
What advice would you give upcoming future people looking to become sports videographers on the professional field?
My advice, just take advantage of any opportunity to learn and, get exposure to, all sports. When I moved to New Orleans and started working, I was freelancing for that guy. And, I was fortunate enough. It's kind of funny. The first thing I did for him was cover the Manning Passing Academy. And then, from there, we did a training camp show featuring all the Louisiana, colleges and NFL and, big high school teams. But then from there, football, in this setting is year round. But for him, he was covering all different high school sports. So, we moved on to, baseball and softball. And, I've covered track and field, I've covered wrestling, volleyball, so I would just say get exposure to everything. You're not sure what might be the best fit and what you might enjoy the most, so definitely I'd say just take advantage of every opportunity to cover a bunch of different sports and see what might be your calling. But because that'll give you a sense of what you may do and do not like about certain ones. And I'll be honest, some are more exciting than you realize. And like I cover games for the Saints and Pelicans, but at the same time, I've been doing freelance with that guy still for the last, 5-6 years at the same time I've been working with the Saints and Pelicans. So I still cover high school sports and, they care about those games just as much as, the fans when they go to a Saints game. So it's kind of cool, to kind of see that different experience and, I get to see it in all different forms. So, I think there's something to be appreciated about that. And, like I said, network with the right people too, reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. I think everybody in this industry is more than willing to be helpful. I haven't found people that are, because it took some help to get into these positions, so I think people understand that, just giving someone your time, even if it's a little bit of it, can go a long way. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. They're more than willing to, give you any advice and connect you with anybody that, might want to, help you get into whatever respective field you want to get in within the industry.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media to find your work at?
So I would put, this is my username since I've been growing up, but it's at Brenbo Master. You could probably find that for Instagram, Twitter. I don't really do a lot of my personal social media channels, so there's not a ton on there, but some retweets and reshares and stuff like that of Saints and Pelicans content is probably the bulk. But you can also find me, Brendan Hassett, on LinkedIn, and any questions, I'd be happy to talk to anybody and offer them any advice and input. Just want to bounce ideas off. Happy to chat.
Thank you again, Brendan Hassett, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the New Orleans Saints and Pelicans as a videographer.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Brendan, for your interview, and best of luck.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.